With just 4 days until the UK's next scheduled departure date, time is running out for Theresa May to reach a Brexit compromise with Labour ahead of a meeting with European leaders. The Prime Minister will travel to Paris and Berlin tomorrow to update the French President and the German Chancellor on the UK's plans and try to shore up support for another Brexit delay. But it appears some of her own MPs have run out of patience, with the Brexiteer Marc-Francois calling for an indicative vote of no confidence in Mrs May. Well, joining me now is Tom Harwood, a reporter for Guido Fawkes and writer and researcher Maya Goodfellow. Hello to you both. So it's crunch week, another one. Tom, are we going to be leaving the European Union on Friday?
I think it's pretty certain that we won't be leaving on Friday, as we weren't leaving last Friday. Parliament has conspired with the Speaker and, to some extent, with the Prime Minister to make sure that we can't now leave on WTO terms, which upsets and betrays, really, the votes of most people who voted leave in the country. We've seen polling throughout the last week that shows actually the most people, if come Friday there's no agreement being reached, most people would like to leave with no deal, but it doesn't look like Parliament would let that situation come to pass. And so sadly what we're seeing now is this slow-moving car crash of Theresa May negotiating with someone who she has described herself as a threat to national security to try and cobble together a deal that keeps us in some of really the worst and most trapping parts of the EU in terms of keeping us in a customs union that would limit our ability to trade and collaborate with third countries, with countries in the growth regions of the world, really trapping ourselves within this declining continent of Europe and abandoning some of the benefits that Brexit can bring. It's a thoroughly depressing situation for Brexiteers. It's a thoroughly depressing situation for Remainers as well. Really, what everyone is striving for now is clarity, and that's the one thing that doesn't seem to be in abundance. I just want to pick you up on one point there, Tom. You're saying that most people would like to leave with no deal. Is that really the case? Sky Data poll out today suggesting that actually the majority are very worried about the prospect of a no deal. That's right. People aren't running away from the challenges that no deal would face. But there was a YouGov poll on the 1st of this month that showed that in the event that we get to Friday and the choices are either a long extension or revoking Article 50 altogether, or no deal, the plurality would go for no deal. And in the choice between revoking Article 50 and no deal actually gets a majority when you exclude people who don't have an opinion. So it is real. It is true to say that a huge amount of this country is now believes that a WTO exit is the best course out of the quagmire that we've been stuck in. Maya, I take it you don't agree there.
No, I absolutely don't agree. And I think to say, polling is what we should base these decisions off is actually not really a sensible way of doing this. We know that no deal would be catastrophic for the economy. We also know that it would be really bad for thinking about this issue of the Northern Irish border, which during the referendum was barely spoken about at all. And now a lot of politicians in England have realised this may actually be an issue that needs to be considered. And I think this idea that saying that Jeremy Corbyn is a threat to national security is quite laughable when we are in this situation because we have a government that is unable to rule this country in a stable way. They've continuously put the Conservative Party ahead of all the interests of the country during these Brexit negotiations. And if we look around the rest of the country, it's not just Brexit. It is issues like low pay, stagnating wages, rising homelessness. These are key issues that are still continuing to get worse as the government is really poorly focused on the Brexit negotiations. What we saw over the past couple of days is Theresa May saying she'll open talks with Jeremy Corbyn, and then, again, moving very little. How many times has she said her door is open to only then be refused to shift in any way from her red lines? That might change. That might change in the coming days, and hopefully there will be some sensible discussions about what we could do next. But I think potentially going forward and suggesting that a longer extension is the most sensible thing here is something that we need to have a conversation about and not kind of engage in this scaremongering around people feeling betrayed. I know a lot of people feel very frustrated up and down the country. They did expect to have left the European Union by now, but the reality is the government have botched this, and that's where we are now. So maybe taking more time to deal with it is the most sensible thing to do. Is Theresa May not putting the national interest first, though, in now engaging with Jeremy Corbyn? Because it's not going to be good for the Conservative Party, is it? No, it's not, but it's taken her so long to get here. So it's not necessarily a question of putting the country first or not. It's really about how she's handled this to this point, and if she's really serious about engaging in those negotiations. Perhaps she is, but the point is the past 3 years suggest that she is very interested in keeping the Conservative Party together, and that's why she hasn't really brought people together throughout the House of Commons to talk about what this deal could have looked like months and months ago. And this suggestion that, that she's more concerned about putting the country first is not borne out by the evidence of the past 3 years. As I say, that may change in the coming days, and hopefully there will be some grown-up discussions from the government with the Labour Party. But Labour have shown themselves willing to negotiate, and the government has repeatedly refused to engage in a sensible way up until now.
Tom Harwood, the noises coming out of Labour haven't been all that positive so far concerning these late last-minute discussions, and yet the Prime Minister is travelling to Paris and Germany tomorrow to speak to President Macron and Chancellor Merkel. What new does she have to tell them?
Well, there seemed to be a bit of a breakthrough, if that's the right word to use, over the weekend when the number 10 team had been texting the Jeremy Corbyn team and really seemed to be inching closer to this idea of a customs union. The Labour Party has said that, Theresa May can call it something else. They can call it a customs arrangement if they want, but as long as it has that common external tariff and common commercial policy with the EU, that is going to be a basis for agreement. Now, that is terrible news for Brexiteers, because a customs union really denies the country some of the benefits of Brexit, some of the reasons, some of the new powers that the UK would gain by leaving the customs union to deal with those burning injustices that we should have been dealing with for the last few years. And I really want to challenge this point that extending Article 50, delaying this process yet further, more indecision, is going to do anything other than wreak more uncertainty for businesses and families and make it much harder to tackle the real issues beyond Brexit. We need to get Brexit sorted as soon as possible, and that means having a cleaner break as we can from the EU, so that then we can talk about those issues that were mentioned, so that then we can tackle poverty in this country and we can drive towards a more prosperous society. We do that by leaving the trappings of the European Union, by embracing the opportunities that then come to us through a more global trade policy. We can copy the policies of places like New Zealand that have opened up to global free trade and the amazing benefits that has given to citizens and consumers. We have these opportunities. If we leave the customs union, if we leave the single market, we can put Brexit to bed. We can get past this horrible situation we've been stuck in, this merry-go-round that we've been sitting on, these same discussions that we've been having week after week, month after month, year after year. We need to end this. We need to leave, whether it be on no deal or a loose arrangement, ideally a Canada-style deal, and then we can move on to the real issues that face people day to day.
My good fellow, a long extension does more harm than good.
I mean, I think to suggest that there is any way of putting this Brexit issue to bed in an easy way is actually, we're living in a fantasy land if we're suggesting that. No matter what the outcome is, this is a conversation that has been opened up, a Pandora's box, that is not going to be very easily closed. So I actually think that what we eventually need, really, is a general election to change government. We have a government that is not able to deal with all those so-called burning injustices. They've repeatedly said that they will, and then they repeatedly don't, and they repeatedly make them worse. So this idea that Brexit and solving Brexit is the way to get to those changes that we need in this country actually doesn't really follow. And I think that what does matter here is a no-deal Brexit would be bad for Britain, it would be bad for the economy, it would be bad for the Ireland, Northern Irish issue. So to suggest that that is a fix, to suggest that anything is an easy fix at this time, I think we've seen from the past 3 years that that actually isn't the case. This is going to be really difficult to sort out. And what I think is necessary then may be a long extension, depending on what comes out of these conversations around a deal around a customs union with the Labour Party.
OK.
So I don't think that it's so easy to solve.
OK, my good fellow Tom Harwood, thank you very much indeed. This is Sky News. Coming up, calling for help without saying a word. The new campaign to raise awareness about the silent solution system when calling 999.